Well, hello, everybody. This is your host, Valerie Kane, with another round of how to live and thrive in the rich flow of life. Oh, my goodness. I tell you, today we have our weekly featured guest. He's no stranger by now. I'm talking about Mr. Dan Christian. You remember he's the Canadian award-winning author of the book Dealership Deceit. In this book, Dan tells you all about how to buy your next car for way less money than you could imagine. I speak so highly of Dan because he is the master teacher and trainer when it comes to giving you the tell-all truth about buying your next car. Everything you need to know, the tips, the secrets, and trades of the business that you need to know before heading to that dealership. Isn't that right, Dan? And welcome. Thank you for joining me. All right, Dan. You're welcome. So these tips and tricks and secrets you've been sharing with us, we are just learning so much. At least I know I am. So today we're going to be talking a lot about timing. Timing is everything. So please start telling us, Dan, when is the best time to buy a car?
Well, thank you, Valerie. And yes, that's a very good question. And again, I'm humbled by your introduction. Okay, timing. So, no, seriously, there are good times, as you probably know, and there are bad times, or times which the dealership is going to be less favorable to giving you a better price. Mm-hmm. The first thing I'm going to talk about is when during the month should you be looking to buy your car. Right. Best time to look and start buying is near the end of the month. This is because dealerships, especially dealerships that are owned by a manufacturer, which are publicly traded, a big one, they have quotas they need to meet. Salespeople have quotas they need to meet, and dealership managers have quotas they need to meet, and they get bonuses, if they sell a certain amount of cars or blow or get past the number of cars that they're selling in a month. Yes, and these incentives are usually so good that dealerships are more willing to sell a car for a lower price if they can get the big incentive, especially if the car you're looking to buy is the one that will get them to their quota.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Very cool.
So keep that in mind when you're talking with salespeople. They are trying to hit numbers, and they are nervous if they're not going to get close to their quota. Now, Now, when during the time of the year should you be buying your car? Next thing I'm going to talk about is quarters. So dealerships, publicly traded dealerships or publicly traded manufacturers, they're owned by shareholders, and they get a financial statement 4 times a year, once every quarter. And these quarters are called fiscal quarters. The fiscal quarter, each one ends at the end of March, at the end of June, at the end of September, and the end of December. So just like I was talking about with months, dealerships also have quarterly incentives, and salespeople have quarterly incentives where they get a big cash bonus if they sell a certain amount of cars at the end of a quarter. So remember, look at the end of March, end of June, end of September, and end of December. The last thing I'm going to talk about is when during the year should you be buying your car, at the end of which quarter. And this applies especially if you're going to be purchasing a new car. And this is purchasing, not leasing. If you're going to be purchasing a new car, look at the end of June, because that's when the dealership is going to start rolling out next year's models. So they need to get rid of the space they have for the current models, which are still, in theory, new for that year. Because dealerships, and especially with new cars, they actually own these cars on credit a lot of the times. They don't actually own the car outright, so they're paying fees to hold the car. So they'd rather get rid of the car rather than hold on to it, especially if it's a new car. So there's a better chance, if you're looking to buy a new car, to purchase at the end of June.
Okay, that is a good tip, Dan. So that's just for the new cars that you purchase at the end of June. And how does that impact us for the used cars? When should we buy those?
And used cars, March or June. March is another good one because that's when yearly financial statements are shared with investors. So I was talking about financial quarters. The end of the financial fiscal year is March.
Okay.
Right. So March, June, and actually end of December is not a bad time either, but it's not as good of an incentive time as the end of June would be for a new car.
I'm just curious then, is this something we should let them know that we're aware of how the financials work, or is it not even necessary to mention that, just knowledge that you would have, the consumer?
I think it's important that consumers know that dealerships which are publicly owned their number one job is to make money for the shareholders. And they get rewarded by their shareholders if they meet quotas, and quotas are reported on a specific frequency. So without getting into too much detail, March is a big one for the years, and the end of the months I was mentioning earlier are the big ones for the quarters. And if a dealership wants to get their rewards, they want to hit their targets, that's when it's crunch time for them.
Very cool. So now we got the insider tip. Yeah, that helps a lot. Knowing the best time to buy a car. And then so let's look also into, Dan, we want to check this out, when you should buy, whether you should buy new or used. How's that impacted for us, that whether we should buy a new or used car?
So for buying a new or buying a used car, before we get into that, I want to mention that I said end of June is good for purchasing a new car. If you initiate a lease at the end of June, that's not the best time to do it. Because, so if you're looking to lease, do not look at the end of June. The reason for that is when you lease a car, you're essentially paying the difference between the purchase price of the car and the value of the car at the end of the lease. I'm telling you to purchase near the end of June because that's when the value of the vehicle is going to drop, because the new cars are coming in and starting to be released. You don't want the value at the end of the lease to be low, because then you're going to have a higher payment. Oh,
so it impacts your payment. Okay.
Exactly. Your payments are going to be higher if you initiate a lease at the end of June, but your purchase price is going to be lower if you purchase a new car at the end of June.
Interesting.
Yes. And going back to your earlier question about should you buy new or buy used, that is a personal question. From a financial standpoint, as I think we talked about this earlier, new cars lose about 30% of their value within the first year of purchase and another 15% within the second year. So new cars at the end of year 2 will only be worth 65% of the amount that you pay for it.
Okay.
Right. So if you're looking at it from a financial perspective, you should always look used ahead of looking for new. If you're looking to get a new car because there's a feature you're really, really in love with and that you want to get on your car, if you can hold off, that's best. However, if you absolutely need a new car, consider leasing.
Okay.
But I'd only say consider, because it depends on your lifestyle. If you're the kind of person who wants to always be driving a new car every 3 or 4 years, leasing is best, because you're going to always have a low monthly payment. And you're not in possession of an asset which is dropping really quickly in value. But if you know that you're going to have this car for the next 10, 15, 20 years, it is actually better to purchase your new car and hold it for that length of time. Because, I know it gets a little complicated, but those are the strategies which will net you the best amount of value.
Very cool. And can you explain to us then, for those even like myself who are really not that familiar, I know what it is to lease a car, but what does it really mean when we go to the dealership and we ask about leasing a car? Can you expand on that for those of us that really don't know what it means?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so, and that's a good question. when you lease a car, it's the same thing as pretty much renting a car. So when you go to the dealership and you say you want to lease, instead of purchasing and owning the car, you're going to borrow the car, rent it for an extended period of time, and then return it back to the dealership.
Okay.
Now, things to keep in mind about a lease rather than a purchase is, yes, you will be paying lower monthly payments, and these monthly payments are determined by as you still negotiate a purchase price, but you subtract that purchase price by what's called a residual value, or the value of the car at the end of this lease, and then you chop it up into the monthly or biweekly payments. Those are still actually multiplied by an interest rate. These interest rates are going to be preset by the manufacturer or the bank that the dealership might be dealing with.
Okay.
The big difference is, it's lower payments, but you don't own the car. Other things you have to consider is, because you're taking a rapidly depreciating asset and borrowing it, if you drive it a little longer than the dealership wants you to, there's a mileage limit. So you might need to pay penalties. So you need to be careful that you don't exceed the mileage limit and that you don't have too much wear and tear on the vehicle when you're borrowing it. For the month, yes. The advantage to leasing is you will get a fancier car for a lower price. So let's say your budget's only $300 a month. If you were to buy a used car, but you were to make the purchase outright, you might not be able to get as good of a car as if you're willing to lease a car, and you would get a more higher end vehicle for that price. And not only that, your new car will still be under its original manufacturer's warranty. So the maintenance will be a little bit better, or the maintenance is going to be a lot cheaper on a leased vehicle if you're leasing a new one than purchasing outright a used vehicle.
Wow. That is great, Dan.
It's a lot to consider.
It's a lot to consider, and this is why it's so great the work that you're doing is that you're available and you've written a book to help people sort all this out, timing, new or used, lease or buy. These are, complex situations, and like you said before, they're unique depending on your own variety of circumstances that a person can encounter when looking at to buy a new car, the next car, or leasing a car, or whatever the case may be. And I'm just so grateful that you are willing to give out the honest truth about what we should know and to expect and do as a consumer. It is so wonderful. So I just want to commend you on your work. Really grateful
thanks
for
that, Valerie.
Yeah. So I think that's enough. Yeah, that's enough secrets for today's call. We don't want to give it all away in one call. Right. So do you have any
much more to come, though.
Any final close you want to give today as this call has come to an end?
Okay, yes. Just a reminder, end of March, end of June, end of September, end of December is when you should be looking to buy your vehicle, or at least at the end of the month. And look to used car, and if you absolutely need a new car, but you won't be holding it for a long time, consider leasing over purchasing. Also, you can visit my website. It's www.dealershipdeceit.com. On there, I have a free download, which is going to save you tons of cash already. It's the 7 ways dealerships overcharge you without you noticing. It talks a bit about the tactics and the deceptions that dealerships have and they employ on unsuspecting car buyers. Knowing what these are will already help you dodge and save a ton of cash on your next car purchase or car lease, whichever is your case.
Right. Well, Dan, that is so great and fantastic, and I always end up telling him one last time that he's available depending on your unique circumstances. If you need the help, he can help you do that single-handedly. Always reach out to him at the mediums that he described, and he'll let you know if you qualify for personal attention. Isn't that right, Dan?
Yes, that is right, Valerie. Thanks for reminding everyone about that.
Yeah, very cool. So anyways, Dan, I thank you dearly. I love you dearly, as always, for taking time out to be with me and the listeners. Thank you so much. Bye-bye,
Yeah,
Dan.
thank you, Valerie. Bye.
Bye-bye.